Next, we're going to talk to a man who posted himself to Australia in a box. To be fair, it wasn't terribly recently. It was back in 1964. Great tale, this, though. Reg Spiers was a promising athlete from Adelaide who'd been training in London, but after an injury, he got fed up, wanted to go home to his wife and daughter. It was his daughter's birthday coming up. Reg couldn't afford a plane ticket, so he and his friend, John McSorley, cooked up a plot to send him by air freight in a homemade wooden crate. They've now written a book about the escapade. I had a chat with both of them. Reg began by telling me why he was in the UK in the first place.
Well, I went to London to try and extend the athletic season and qualify for the Tokyo Olympics, I think it was. So I got a job on a boat and worked my way over to London. I had an injury, it didn't improve, and I decided I wanted to go home.
What was your distance in the athletics?
Just over 78 metres 12, I think.
Javelin you're talking about now?
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yes.
You got to London, injury didn't improve, so you thought, right, I've got to get home.
Basically, that's the way it was.
Why did you have to get home in a hurry?
Well, I was married at the time, and I had a child, and I wanted to get back to them. Her birthday was coming up, I realised this harebrained scheme, and did it.
So why
just to get home?
Why not just get an ordinary plane ticket? Were you short of money?
No money, Adrian.
Okay.
I didn't have any money. In those days, there was no money in athletics, and I didn't have any. And I worked at the London airport, and I knew quite a bit about export cargo and the specification of the various airplanes. I saw animals coming through, so I thought, well, I'll give it a shot.
So first thing you need is did you use an envelope or a box? What?
Got a box, Adrian. It was again, I had the specifications. The largest box you could put on the thing at the time, a jet aircraft, was 5 feet by 2 feet by 3.5 feet. And that was the biggest piece of freight you could put into a jet aircraft. So my mate Johnny McSorley and I, we got together and we built this box, and I got in it and finished up in Australia.
Unless you're a very short javelin thrower, an unusually short javelin thrower at 5 feet, then you wouldn't have been able to stretch out in this box.
No, I'm over 6 foot tall, and I could curl up. I could sit up with my legs stretched out. Don't forget, Adrian, I was 22 years old, and you can do anything then.
Was it dark in this box?
Pitch black.
So at what point did you shut yourself into the box?
24 hours before the plane took off. A couple of guys and Johnny took me in a utility down to the airport and put the box there, and they put it into the warehouse, and then they came and got me, put me on the plane, off I went.
And you were sure that the cargo hold was
pressurized?
Was
yeah,
pressurized.
Yeah, I knew that. Yes, I knew that. Because like I said before, animals were coming through the airports, at the airport, London airport, and I figured if they can do it, I can do it.
So you're in that box for 24 hours before you even take off. What are you thinking at that moment as you contemplate life in the darkness of a small box?
I'm just sitting there waiting. Pretty much that's it. Contemplating my life up to that point. And I just waited. And surely they came along and put me on an aircraft, and off I went.
Did you have any snacks on board in your little box?
Yeah. I had a bottle of water, and I'd stopped eating for a few days. I didn't want to particularly have any toilet escapades there, so I stopped eating, and so my bodily functions had slowed down, and I peed once while I was on the journey, that's all.
What, once in 3 days?
Well, that's what it was, yeah, I think I did, only once. That's the only one I remember. Between London and Paris, I got out of the bloody box and stretched my legs after 24 hours. I had a Heinz 57 variety catering-sized can of baked beans that Johnny had gave me because he worked for them. And I peed in that and put it on top of the box. So I'm stretching my legs and wandering up and down, and I feel the plane inclined to the earth, and the bloody thing's going down, so I immediately jumped back in the box, pulled the ends closed, threw the latches at either end, and sat there wait for the plane to land. And then, of course, as it hit the ground, I realised that there's a can of pee on top of this bloody box.
A baked beans can of pee on top of the box. So what did the French loaders make of that?
Well, I thought, well, yeah, I didn't get far. They'll work it out. But they didn't. They never related the can of pee to the box. and they were dirty. They were really dirty on the apparently the English baggage handlers or freight handlers in England.
So they thought.
Yeah.
So they thought it was an insult. They thought it was an insult.
Yeah,
from
they
the
thought
English.
that the English were having a lend to them.
So, first leg then, London, Paris. You've successfully relieved yourself in an empty
Yes.
catering-sized can of baked beans. Then what? Where did you go next? Paris too.
Well, I went to Mumbai. And they changed me from one plane to another. And
just on that flight though. I mean,
Yes.
what's that? It's got to be 8 hours or 8 to 9 hours to
yeah,
Mumbai.
something like that. I couldn't remember.
And you're just in the box.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you get out and stretch your legs then, or is there
Well,
somebody in the hole?
well, I had a torch, but the batteries ran out, so it's pitch black. And I don't want to wander around because I don't want to know where I am. So I just stayed in the box.
So your battery had gone, and this was
Yep.
about 40 years before smartphones were invented, so you couldn't
That's
read
right.
by the light of your iPhone or whatever.
No, I couldn't
so
do that.
just you had a lot of time to think about things.
Oh, yeah, you do. But, I mean, it's like when you go to bed at night, what do you think of? That's what I was thinking. You just think about your life and the things that happen to you, the things you do, and I'm wondering how the hell this is all going to turn out, and I'm just waiting to find out.
So you get to Bombay and you switch planes. How long was the stopover in Bombay?
It was about an hour or so,
Okay.
and they left the box out on the tarmac, and it was hot as hell.
Well, that must have been worrying. What if they just left you there on the tarmac at the airport?
Well, if it got that bad, I would have got out. But they didn't. So I stayed there. I was patient, and they put me on another plane, which then went on to Singapore, I think, which was not a big hop. Then there was a big hop from Singapore, and I figured that the next stop's got to be somewhere in Australia. And sure enough, after a long flight, I slept most of the time, curled up. The hold opened, and I heard these guys get on board, and they were swearing. They were saying, I can't say on the BBC,
Yeah.
but they're saying very unpleasant things about this box because it was so big, and would they have to handle it? Unfortunately for them, they did. So they unloaded me in this box, took me off to a bond shed. Well, I knew this process. So they took me there and they left me there.
Imagine if you'd gone out of the box at that point, and to
That
your
was shit,
absolute
sorry.
horror, you were back at Heathrow after a mix-up.
No, I didn't. I see where you're coming from. No, that didn't happen. These were Aussie guys, and I didn't care where I was. I was in Oz. That's all I needed to know.
So you're in the bonded warehouse. So
Yep.
when did you emerge from your tomb?
Well, as soon as they put me in there and left, I got out. There was beer in there, and I had some beer, and drank a bit, but I threw it up straight away. I could see out of this bonded shed through cyclone wiring at the top, and there happened to be a toolkit there, so I got some snippers, cut a hole in the bloody wall, got out, put a suit on, and got out and walked out of the airport, thumbed a ride into town.
What? Nobody asked you any questions or anything?
No.
Did you have a passport on you?
Oh yes, I had a passport, but no, I just walked out of Perth Airport.
The fellow who got you the baked beans tin, and
Johnny McSorley.
yeah, well, I've got him on the line actually.
Of course you have.
Johnny,
Yes.
how you doing? You all right? So,
Is that you again, Johnny?
well, it's a bit of a double act. It's like Morecambe and Wise. You've done this a few times, have you?
You're leaving them for dead.
Okay, so your part in this harebrained scheme was what, John?
Well, you know, I was the box builder.
Is this what you do for a living? Are you a casket maker by any chance?
No, I'm not. I'd worked in my dad's firm, shop fitting firm, and learned a bit of carpentry. But at the time that I met Reg, I was working for Heinz of the 57 varieties.
Yeah.
Thankfully, because when Reg came over and stayed with me, I had loads of samples, and Reg had a huge appetite, and he cleaned up all my all my samples. But I got to give you an insight into this guy at the time.
Now, Johnny, take it easy.
You know, when I think about it, he had a personality that was a cross between Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, and Jack Nicholson from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He was, had a great zest for life, And he was great to be with. It was great to be with.
What were you doing then while he'd gone? He just waiting for news?
Listen, the whole idea was, because we were all strapped for cash, that he was going COD. So the whole business was set up where he was going from a fictitious address in London, the Supreme Shoe Company, to the Supreme Shoe Company in Perth, which didn't exist, as rubberized emulsion. He was also to be going COD, which was fairly commonplace. You could send packages and send them COD.
Cash on delivery.
So that eliminated the money aspect. Now, the idea was that we'd hatched this, that if he got through, got the other end, then we could sell the story and pay for the freight charges, because we weren't out to defraud anybody. We wanted to try.
That's a lie, Johnny. I didn't want to do that.
So that was the premise we set out with.
But why give a fictitious address? Because who's to say they just wouldn't return to sender?
Well,
back to another address that didn't exist at origin, and you just go back and forth across the world forever with an empty tin of baked beans and a non-functioning torch.
Could have worked out like that.
Yes, it might have done, but the fact was, in the early 60s, obviously things were very different, and it was quite casual, and it worked. At that time, people didn't need to check things, but everything seemed so casual and easy, relatively easy then.
So when you did get there, did you get hold of John and tell him you'd safely made it, Reg?
It took me a week to get from Perth to Adelaide, and then I was home for a week.
How did you do that then? Perth to Adelaide, how did you do?
Hitchhiking.
God, hadn't you had enough by then? Just buy yourself a train. Or why don't you just get yourself in another box and get a cargo flight to Adelaide?
I would have if I could have, Adrian.
Yeah.
But I'm not the carpenter. No, I eventually got home, and I was home for a week, and I thought, Johnny will know I'm okay. He won't worry. It took me 2 weeks before I was going to attempt to inform him. But there it is, and then it all come out.
John, at any stage, were you tempted to go with him and snuggle up in that box with him?
Yeah, well, at that point in time...
Next time we do it, Adrian, you can come.
A box for 3, yeah.
Reg had been with me for over 4 months, and I thought, well,
he was trying to get rid of me.
We'll have a rest. He was desperate to get home. In 1988, I went over and I lived in Australia for over 20 years. It's a great country, but at that point in time, I wasn't ready to go.
What did your wife say, Reg, when you finally got back to Adelaide?
Well, hello to you. That's what they didn't know I was coming, and I just walked in the door. But they sort of expected that from me if I just turned up, and life went on until the media went crazy.
I'm just looking at the distance.
Are you?
The distance from Perth to Adelaide. I mean, it's probably just as big an achievement to hitchhike from Perth to Adelaide. That would have got you on the lead story on Australian news, I would have thought. There can't be many people who've done that.
That's interesting enough. But, I knew once I had my feet in Australia, I could get to any other part of it.
You have to realise that Reg has a unique way of hitchhiking anyway. And I've observed him do this a number of times, and he did it, all around the UK. He'd stand in the middle of the road with his thumb out. The car had the choice of running him down or stopping. Now, invariably, the car stopped, and they'd observe a big beaming smile, and Reg he'd never take his eyes off the driver, move round to the side door, open it, say, geez, thanks for stopping, mate. Can you drop us off up the road? It never failed. It never failed, which was the astonishing thing.
Look, Reg, I've got your whole life story here, Reg, and I don't know whether you've written a book.
Scared the hell out of you, mate.
But I mean, look, it's colourful. I mean, you spent time on death row in Sri Lanka after this. I don't think that was for smuggling yourself in a box. That was smuggling,
slightly different.
Smuggling other stuff. So what?
It was a mistaken identity, Adrian. Get it right.
Okay, was it? But so how long did you? But you ended up serving 5 years in Australia, didn't you? In a jail.
No, I did 3 years in a Sri Lankan prison. Yeah. And I did 3 years in a Australian prison.
Having spent 3 days in a box on a cargo flight,
the jail was easy.
The jail was relatively easy.
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you, Adrian, if I was on a desert island and I could have one guy with me, it would be Reg. He feels he can overcome any obstacles and still come up smiling. He's been in some hellholes that few, if any, people could survive.
So, how old are you now, Reg?
23.
23. Okay. So, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with the rest of your life? You got anything else? You got anything else planned?
I'm going to come and see you, Adrian.
Yeah. Okay.
And we're going to go on a journey.
Get yourself.
somewhere.
We are. We're going to. The three of us. John's going to build us
We're
an
going
ice
to South
box.
America.
Yeah.
Huh?
An ice box. We'll get somebody on the inside in Hines to sneak us a few empty tins out.
Oh, we could do it right. We could really do it right now. I've had a bit of experience.
All right. Listen, lovely talking to you. Lovely talking
Adrian,
to you
it's been a pleasure.
It's Reg Spiers and John McSorley. Their book, Out of the Box, is available now. What a pair of characters they were. They don't make them like that anymore. It's just coming up to noon.